This is the new Scion FRS, Subaru BRZ, Toyota 86. It's not the Toyota 86 either. Toyota GR86. Call it what you will, the beloved sports car between the joint venture of Subaru and Toyota is actually back for a second generation. Hello everyone, my name is Kurt, and welcome to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, where of course we're going to be taking a look at the latest 2022 Toyota GR86. We're going to take a look outside, inside. I'm going to show you some of the features, then we're going to try and cram a bike in the back of this thing, and then most importantly, we're going to take it for a drive on some twisty canyon roads. I'm actually really excited to be driving this car today because I used to own a 2013 Scion FRS back when they used to call it a completely different name. Of course, the proportions are pretty much the same, but the looks have been updated. And what do you think of the updated styling? Comment below. I'm a big fan of what they've done here. They haven't quite over-styled it. It's seen here in Truino Blue, which of course is a darker blue metallic. It's also important to note that we are driving the base model today, which I think is something quite interesting because they do offer a premium version. The two biggest differences on the exterior between the base and the premium are really the wheels and the wing. This has 17-inch wheels, the premium gets 18, and the wing on the premium is more of a duckbill, a little bit higher up. Of course, the big news here is that the displacement of the engine has been increased. And of course, so has the power output. It now makes 228 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, which is roughly 15% more than the previous model, which, as you'll see in the drive, makes a pretty big difference. Now is the point in the video where you can watch me struggle to put an extra large mountain bike frame in a tiny sports car. And ultimately, I couldn't. The width of the bike, including the pedals, was just too wide for the narrow opening around the back seats. Keep in mind that I was able to put a slightly smaller road bike in the BRZ I had without issue. So overall, I would say most reasonably sized bikes will fit here, but the largest of bikes may struggle. And as always, if you enjoy this video, including the bike test, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. When we hop inside, it's a very similar situation to what we saw in the exterior. The interior is sort of an evolution of what we saw last generation. And the big thing to know here is that this car is still very driver focused and more function over form. There's not any crazy styling elements or, super premium materials that are a huge departure from the last generation, although it does feel a bit nicer than the last generation, but everything is laid out well. You have a 8-inch touchscreen display, regardless if you get the premium or the base, which despite the graphics looking a bit dated, is still at least super easy to use, as are the HVAC controls, which are all physical, and you get a lot of physical buttons in here, which is a really nice thing. The steering wheel has the GR logo here on the bottom, and it's a good size wheel overall. And then the other biggest change is the fact that they went to an all-digital gauge cluster. It's configurable, you can move things around, the tach will get bigger, the tach will go horizontal when you go into track mode, and kind of changes with the sort of different sporting modes of the car. Now, as far as features that you get on the premium that you don't get on the base on the interior, well, it's really the heated seats is the big one. You don't get heated seats with this base model, and the seat material itself is quite different, but I do like the fabric seats in this base model. They seem like they'll hold up decently well, and they're certainly just as bolstered as the premium seats. But while we're on the topic of seats, they are quite comfortable and they're mounted very low in the car, which is perfect for a sports car. All right, time for some canyon driving in the Angeles Forest. Right away, I want to get into something that's different between this car and the BRZ that I drove. Not just because they're tuned slightly differently from a suspension standpoint and some other tweaks, but that car, the BRZ, was the top tier model, and it had Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, which are very, very sticky tires. This has Primacy tires, which are notoriously known as being the basically Prius tires that the last generation car was put on, and everyone made comments about, yes, it makes the car less capable, but it is more it's more fun to drive in a lot of ways because it's more playful. It just moves around a little bit more. It's a little more slidey when you want it to be. I don't know, it kind of like just adds to the character of this car. One of the things that I said when I drove the latest generation BRZ compared to my last car was the fact that it's a little more serious of a car. It takes itself more serious. And I could just notice it so much already driving this, because I just drove this road a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna move over for some guys that are going very quickly up the mountain. We're driving and talking, so we have to bring it down a little bit of a notch. But yeah, the tires really do make a big difference. And it's funny because I really almost like this car more on these crappier tires. Actually, in fact, I just do. I do like it more on the crappier tires. So while you do lose out on some stuff if you don't get the premium model, like the heated seats is probably the big thing. You don't have adaptive headlights, and that's kind of a bummer. But if you want to save $3,000, you will not be disappointed in the driving of this car, because it drives exactly the same as, of course, the premium version, just with less sticky tires. And you can always put stickier tires on this thing. So that's the first thing, first and foremost, because it's a BRZ or GR86. Everybody modifies these. So if you want a set of sticky tires, buy some wheels, put some sticky tires on there, and then have your sort of daily driver fun wheels and tires, which are just these stock ones. You go to the track, throw the sticky ones on. To me, that's the move. Now, of course, if money is less of an issue and you can afford that extra, $3,000 for the premium model, of course, get the premium model. I think it looks a little cooler with that duckbill spoiler, and obviously you want more features. But you could always also put the Prius tires on the premium model. That would probably be the ultimate move if money is no object. But it does feel extremely similar to the BRZ, and that is to say, dialed. I just can't get over the value in this vehicle. For under $30,000, you cannot beat this driving experience. The suspension is compliant, but still super sharp out here in the canyons. Not a ton of body roll. They increase the rigidity of this, and it is extremely noticeable out here. And when you increase the rigidity of a chassis, you can make the suspension just a little bit more compliant. It doesn't have to be like super hard. So it rides definitely better than the last generation car. I would have to drive the BRZ and the GR86 just back to back, like literally get out of one and get into the other to notice the suspension differences, because it feels so similar. I know they had some damping differences. There's some slight tuning differences in the suspension, but I don't know, they both turn in fantastic. The steering feel, I did mention in the BRZ video, feels just a touch subpar compared to the last gen model, and it is apparently revised, so I guess I'm not too surprised, but it still talks to you a bit. And for under $60,000-$70,000, can you buy something that is more communicative, more of a pure sports car than this? I don't think so. One of my only other gripes, which is very minor, is this turn signal. It doesn't have a detent, so when you push it down, it doesn't stay in that position. It just sort of has two levels of one push, a light push, a very light push will get you a lane change, three clicks, do. And then a harder push will get you to, activate the turn signal, which won't go off until you counter steer the other way. The problem is there's not enough of a difference between those two things. So you almost always, when you're just trying to do a lane change, you end up turning it full on. And then because there's no detent to turn it full off, you press up all the way, and then you're changing lanes, or you're having your turn signal go the other way. It's just, why would you reinvent the turn stalk? This is, I'm not going to say it's on the level of dumb of the yoke in the new Tesla, but it's along the same lines of, yes, there are some things that we can prove upon as in cars, but do we really need to prove upon a turn stalk which has worked the same for every car in the last 50 years or more? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But minor tweak, probably somebody will be able to change that, change everything on these cars. The other thing is the noise. I think it overall sounds better than the last gen car, but there is a little bit too much buzziness going on because they are piping noise through the speakers. And my understanding is there's a pretty simple fix for that, but I do have to report on it because this is just the way the car comes, and I can't just go modifying press cars. I don't think they'll be too happy with me if I do that. You know what is happy though? Me, right now, on this road. Just the perfect car for this road. And just going back to the tires, I just want to circle back to the tires. It just makes this a more fun experience, because the problem I have with a lot of modern sports cars is that they're genuinely too fast. Genuinely too fast to come out on a road like this and have fun, because to just even get remotely close to the limit, you're just going bonker speeds. So what this does with crappier tires is bring those limits down. And it just makes it more approachable. You're going less fast and having just as much, if not more, fun. So that's just the move. Get the crappy tires. The base car in the last generation kind of came with a much crappier infotainment system, and this is all the same. Like I said, the heated seats is different in the premium, but everything else is the same. Nice firm brake pedal. Man, just put pads and fluid in this thing, and you just have such a fun track car. And this engine just gets out of its own way, like the last car doesn't. This is exactly what the next generation of the GR86 needed. And it's funny because a lot of manufacturers are getting it wrong these days. A new generation comes out and they completely throw the old one out and then say, no, we can do like something totally different and better. And while I appreciate that approach to an extent, you have to make the new car better. Like look at the new BMWs. Arguably the M3s, for a lot of people, they've gotten worse. And what Toyota and Subaru did with this car was say, what works with the last generation car, which was most things, and what can we improve upon? I think the big things that people complained about with the last car were obviously first and foremost the engine. And this engine is just so much better in every way than the last car. It revs just as freely, but it has way more torque and power. So there's no loss there. That guy scared the crap out of me. He was coming really fast in that BMW. So they just improved on it iteratively. And you know what that reminds me of? A certain company from Germany with the first letter of P. Porsche has just this iterative approach to improving their cars, but they don't completely throw everything out, and they just continue to improve it. And I think Toyota and Subaru took a page out of their book, and I'm really, really happy they did. Now, when it comes to which one you buy, you can't go wrong. GR86, BRZ, you cannot go wrong. For me, I guess it really just boils down to looks. Which one do you think looks better? Buy that one. Buy the appropriate model. Buy the base model if you want to save some money. If you have more money, buy the premium model. I mean, we're splitting hairs here, but for under $30,000, you cannot get a better sports car experience. And we will leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I have very much enjoyed it. And if you did, and you made it this far, thank you very much. Consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And we will see you on the next one.